That is James Mennie from the Montreal Gazette, and I am Robin Flynn filling in for Aaron Rand. Jim, did you hear my conversation with Andre DeRoche before the news by any chance?
Bits and pieces, yeah.
So he basically says he thinks that there are more accidents right now, fatal accidents on Quebec roads because people aren't traveling, that people are choosing to stay here. Does that mean we can blame Donald Trump basically for what's going on?
I think that might be a bit of a stretch there, Robin, to tell you the truth. But yeah. I would, as my dad, who was a career mechanic, used to say, the most important part of the of an automobile is the nut behind the wheel. And basically, you have, I'm sorry, driving is driving. And you still see, in fact, it's still funny because, I left Montreal a few years back. I moved across the river, and you see a complete difference. I mean, don't get me wrong. People on my side of the river are not angels or saints, but the idea, it's amazing how many people have figured out how a crosswalk works out where I live, as opposed to like down to Montreal. So it is a difference. But the fact is, a lot of people still use their cars as extensions of their frustrations, as extensions of their anger, as extensions of the fact that they're late. And my God, I realize, I should know that I'm driving this 2-ton projectile that is, when it's traveling at 60 miles an hour, can do tremendous damage to life and limb. But most people haven't got that figured out. So, yeah, I would agree that a lot of people are staying in Quebec and confronting a lot of other people who aren't that good at driving. Yeah. But I would hesitate. There's plenty of things we can blame Donald Trump for, Robin, but I don't think this is one of them.
Just always want to pile on, take every opportunity, I know. Okay, let's talk about Francois Legault, though. Speaking of piling on, his bad luck streak continuing.
Oh, well, on the one hand, this was not entirely unexpected. Ever since we've seen these ridiculous headlines about Lion Electric, which was a Quebec manufacturer of electric buses that basically went belly up. When we see the Northvolt problems, that the parent company in Sweden declared bankruptcy. We have this huge plant that is or is not building. They say it's going to go through on the South Shore, but we're not entirely sure. But what we do know is that the government, the Legault government, and to be fair, the feds as well, but the Legault government spent tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars propping these projects up. And people have said, well, listen, what the hell happened to our money? How exactly was our money spent? And finally, today, Quebec's Auditor General, who does not need a mandate from the government to look into things, announced that he is going to look into this. And I think, given the timing, given that we're going on this long, treacherous flight path towards the general election in October of next year, this is the last thing. This is the last thing that Francois Legault needs to have draped around his neck, with all the other anchors that are there in terms of dissatisfaction with his government, a lack of confidence in his cabinet, the fact that essentially Francois Legault is in a position now where it's almost like he's saying anything that he thinks might get him reelected or get his party reelected. But the fact is, a lot of people are already talking about the CAQ in the past tense, even though we still have more than a year until the next election, Robin. But it's going to be a very torturous 13 months. And honestly, who knows what the Auditor General is going to... I guess the best thing that Francois Legault can hope for is that the Auditor General does a quick job and drops this maybe, by the end of this year or at the beginning of the new year. So it's, because as we know, nobody remembers anything. So it becomes more distant in the public's memory. If not, if it comes up and is still viable, still has good shelf life to be used during election campaigns, then, God help the CAQ, because nobody else will.
Do you think that Francois Legault at this point even wants to remain premier?
I don't. I honestly don't. And I know he's been doubling and tripling and quadrupling down. I fully believe the CAQ will still be around in time for the next election in October of 2026. I do not believe it will be led by Francois Legault. I think Francois Legault, anybody can tell you, maybe his caucus doesn't have the spine to do it, but anybody who looks at a poll can say that the biggest problem that the CAQ has is Francois Legault, because Francois Legault is the CAQ. Francois Legault is a one-man show. The idea, and that's one of the problems when you had some rather talented people, controversial perhaps, but certainly with a lot of qualifications, guys like Pierre Fitzgibbon, who decided I'm out of here, and who also was sort of guiding as Minister of Energy and Economy, was guiding the electric vehicle file. And you have people like Christian Dubé, the health minister, the embattled, the beleaguered health minister, who, last I heard, was not going to seek re-election in 2026. So yeah, I can't see him hanging around. I don't think he needs this, and frankly, I don't think he would win. And I think there is a genuine possibility he might even lose his own seat. We've seen this happen before in more recent elections. Public sentiment is kind of funny these days because it can be how can I put it, elevated and depressed in a very, very quick cycle. And I think the people of Assomption, the riding where Francois Legault is MNA, may be looking around them and saying, it might be time for a change. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. But, yeah, I don't believe we'll be talking about Francois Legault's chances in the next general election. Although, as I say, the CAQ may still be around.
Now, if he wants to ensure the CAQ's, success after he leaves or steps down, assuming he does, what would the timeline for something like that look like? Because they would have to choose a new leader, right?
Yeah, they'd have to choose a new leader, but please don't use the Quebec Liberal process as a template. I mean, those guys could have built a starship in a time it took them to choose their leader. The thing just went on for freaking ever. And honestly, even, people like me who get paid to follow these things, by the time it was over, you're kind of going, yeah, ho-hum. And there wasn't a huge, fireworky kind of reception for Pablo Rodriguez when he was voted the leader. So, yeah, I mean, spring, I'd say.
Okay.
Of course, the other possibility, and this is something else, because there's also the fact that Francois Legault is very, very stubborn.
Yes.
There's also the possibility he may call an early election and just get it over with, rip the Band-Aid off. If he sees that he can keep the opposition on the back foot long enough for another election, I wouldn't put it past him. I'm not sure that he'll do it, but I think those are his two options. Either go to an early vote if you've got something in your pocket that you can sell, and quite frankly, though, the problem with Monsieur Legault is that the only thing he's really sold for the past 8 years is fear. And people are realizing now that maybe I'm not as endangered and as in need of the protective wing of Francois Legault as he's been telling us for the past 8 years.
And maybe we'll get another inflation check. Last election, didn't he give us all like $400 or something?
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. With our deficits, and who knows how much they really are. Last, when everyone was shocked when it was supposed to be like 17. It's not 17. Yeah, it's record setting. No, it's not record setting. Whatever it is, we're in hawk up to our eyeballs, Robin. And I don't see any more checkbook politics coming down the pipe from the CAQ.
So what's going on with this Athabasca by-election? Why should we care about what's going on there?
Why should we care? Because honestly, it is a dress rehearsal for the general election. Everyone's got a great deal to prove, okay? The PQ, who are apparently running neck and neck with the provincial Conservatives, have got to win this seat, because if they don't win, and they've been sort of treating themselves as the government in waiting, as it's going to be us. Let's face it, no one likes Francois Legault. Well, if they don't, and quite frankly, it's not just they don't just have to win. I think they have to win big. And if they don't, if it's a narrow win over, say, the Conservatives, some people might be checking their watches and maybe looking at some other party brochures before they cast their vote for the PQ. Obviously, Eric Jane for the provincial Conservatives, it's all or nothing here. This is really his last chance to kick at the can, because he's done everything that he can. His party got 12% of the vote, and it's hovering around there, I think, still in the latest polls. So I think he's got a shot. He's running a very populist campaign. The Liberals are fielding a local woman as the candidate there, and really, this is also a big deal for Pablo Rodriguez. Remember the Rodriguez effect? It was supposed to just lift the fortunes of the Quebec Liberals like a Saturn V rocket. Well, even if she doesn't win, she had better do well. I think she'd better, anything lower than third, and a strong third, Robin. And I think Mr. Rodriguez will have some explaining to do. It's just one of those things where it shouldn't be an important election. It's just to fill a seat that was vacated by a CAQ incumbent who went on and got himself elected as a federal Conservative. But in this particular instance, I think a lot of people will be watching the result. A lot of people have been watching the campaign itself, which on the one hand is trying to be local, but of course they know it's a dress rehearsal, so they're talking about housing. They're talking about provincial topics. Will people go out and vote? I think that if nothing else, the results will be important, but turnout will be even more so because, yes, it's the middle of summer. But, as we just mentioned, a lot of people are staying in Quebec. So it'll be interesting to see if people feel strongly enough about where their provincial government is going to go over the next year that they actually show up to vote. But either way, as we say in these parts, Robin, this is not an élection partielle comme les autres.
Yeah, absolutely. James Mennie, Montreal Gazette. Thanks so much. Great chatting with you.
À demain.